Hey guys, Dimension Master Studios here, how y'all doing? So I'm sure as you guys know, a few days ago, we ended up getting episode 13 of Crystalized. It wasn't in English, and the English subtitles are just a fan translation so far. But still, in a way, we do have the latest episode when it comes to Crystalized, and so in today's video, I just decided that I wanted to give you guys my review of the episode. And to be honest with you guys, I have some thoughts when it comes to this episode. And if you've seen some of my previous videos, you probably know exactly where this is going. So, let's begin. So the episode starts off not like the previous episodes of Crystallized with a new version of the Weekend Whip, rather again it's with Rumi singing the Spider song that she sung towards the end of episode 12. So you know that's something, honestly. We then get a flashback sequence showing a ton of stuff that Rumi was in prior to this season starting, and it's basically just like kind of a brief recap stuff when it comes to a lot of things. And one moment that I find is pretty interesting is when Rumi says, people thought that my story was over. And I have to wonder, is this her talking about like the characters in the show, like they thought that she was done? Or is this like a fourth wall break and she's talking about the fans and how we all thought that with Rumi dying she wasn't going to come back? Or is this meant to be like a combination of the two? And who knows, honestly. Also, when it comes to this recap sequence, we see that when it comes to Rumi, she brings up her saving that family, and she says that when it came to that, apparently she couldn't let that family suffer the exact same fate that her family did. And I've said it before and I'll say it again, but I consider Rumi's death scene to be the worst moment in the entirety of the show, with one of the biggest reasons being the fact that this moment, it completely goes against Rumi's character. All throughout seasons 8 and 9, Rumi was presented to us as an evil, sadistic killer who found joy in people's suffering and who cared about no one other than herself. And the decision to have her save 3 people right before they died, it made legitimately no sense at all. Especially considering the fact that Rumi stated on multiple occasions that she wanted this to happen. During the season 8 finale, Lloyd brought up that this very situation would happen, and Rumi just implied that she wanted this to happen. She straight up told Lloyd, and I quote, "This is only the beginning," which again, to me implies that when it comes to Rumi, she wanted innocent people to die as a result of the attack. And after Lloyd was forced to watch what he and everyone else thought was the death of the 4 original ninja and Sensei Wu, Rumi straight up told Lloyd, "This is what I wanted, to see your father return and for you to lose everything." Again, Rumi wanted all this bad and terrible stuff to happen. So why did she decide to save this family? It makes no sense at all, honestly, and I feel only makes Rumi's death scene even worse. We then get a chance to see the Overlord make his official return into the show, and I'm going to be honest with you guys, I really like that the Overlord is back in the show. The Overlord is honestly one of my favorite villains and characters in the entirety of the show, and it is so cool to see him back, especially in this kind of like virus or bacteria looking design that he has so far. That is something I feel that is pretty cool. The Overlord then brings Rumi back to life, which I feel kind of cheapens the effect of death a bit when it comes to the show. Considering, we've had characters die and be brought back a lot of times before, and in the times when the resurrection is done well, I do feel like it is just legitimately really good, like Zane returning towards the end of Rebooted and Garmadon returning during Sons of Garmadon. Like, those moments I feel are pretty good. Rumi returning, on the other hand, I feel like this is one of the bad examples of, like, a character being brought back from the dead, honestly, and I just don't like it all that much, honestly. And so then when it comes to Rumi, she ends up getting out of the rubble that she was in and heads to Primeval's Eye, which is going to be the base of operation for the Overlord. Rumi then places a crystal that she has, which contains the Overlord / Crystal King, places it on the altar in the Mask of Hatred Woods, and the crystal then grows, and we get a chance to see a shadow of the Crystal King. And once again, it's pretty cool to see this. Rumi then recognizes the Crystal King as the Overlord, and then says how she can't work for him. I mean, how he'll destroy everything. And to that I say, Harumi, you are a hypocrite. Because, what would you call destroying the Palace of Secrets? Or using the Oni Titan on a rampage in the city during the season 8 finale? You're saying that's not destruction? Because to me, that's destruction. Like, it's really weird to me that Rumi would say this sort of thing, considering she was directly responsible for a ton of death and destruction during the events of Season 8, so just to see her be against that now, it makes no sense at all, considering, again, she was directly responsible for that. especially considering the fact that all throughout this episode, Harumi is shown to be the exact same way that she was during seasons 8 and 9, and she's choosing to do this. This isn't Avatar Harumi or like Harumi being mind controlled or anything. She's perfectly fine with doing more bad and terrible things. So again, the fact that she says this and is against the idea, it makes no sense at all. The Crystal King then says that his plan is basically just to take over Ninjago and for there to be, quote, peace in the dark. And this is something that I haven't brought up in any of my previous videos, but I feel like now is a good time to bring it up, honestly. I'm honestly worried about the Crystal King during the events of Crystalized, because honestly, from the way things are looking, I don't like the direction that they're taking the Crystal King, with, again, the idea that he's going to do, like, this bad and terrible stuff, but to him, he's going to be doing good. And honestly, this is my least favorite type of villain when it comes to media. The villain who's all like, by doing something bad and terrible to the world, I will have saved it and made it a better place. For a big example I have when it comes to this, think of Thanos from the Marvel movies. Like, his main overall goal is basically to commit mass genocide and murder a ton of people all across the universe, but he's doing all of it for resource conservation. How is it that he can think that by committing mass genocide, he will have solved the problem of resource conservation? Like, that's not going to happen. That's only going to result in bad things happening. And the exact same situation I feel could potentially happen going on with here. When it comes to the Overlord, with him wanting this whole thing of, again, peace in the darkness, he's not going to accomplish anything good at all. This is only going to result in bad things happening. So just, again, I hope that when it comes to the Overlord, they don't make this like a big part of his character or anything. I mean, like, he's still like this really evil villain who wants to take over Ninjago, but it's not to bring peace. Harumi then agrees to work for the Overlord, and Harumi then goes out in order to get events shown, and we get a pretty interesting scene in Shintaro, actually, where Harumi and King Vangelis are actually talking to each other, and we get a chance to see King Vangelis as the Skull Sorcerer in his original outfit. That is definitely something really cool. Plus, also, as it turns out, when it comes to King Vangelis, he's even more evil than we thought, because as it turns out, in addition to running the slavery operation with the Monsters and Geckos, turns out the Monsters and Geckos actually go against what he's doing. He's perfectly fine with killing them. So, that's extra evil. Also, as it turns out, when it comes to this conversation, it took place right before the ninja met King Vangelis during Season 13. And when it comes to the next scene, it's actually showing Harumi in Seabound. And I do think this is something kind of interesting, like having this season connect some of the previous seasons, and just going along more with the Benchstone storyline. I do think that is something pretty interesting. Plus, when it comes to the Shintaro scene, I feel like this kind of retroactively adds on a bit when it comes to Lloyd's suspicions about Vanya and everything, since, Lloyd wasn't sure if he could trust Vanya, considering, according to Lloyd, she's a princess and all princesses are the same. And as it turns out, again, Harumi was actually there when the ninja were first at Shintaro, so I guess, again, that does kind of make Lloyd's suspicions a bit more valid. I mean, they're still bad considering Vanya was actually a good person, but again, it's just something kind of interesting, I guess. It's then revealed that when it came to everything that we've seen so far when it comes to the episode, turns out Harumi was actually telling all of this to Lloyd. And so this whole thing's basically been kind of like a flashback episode type thing going on. But that's not it, though. Harumi then reveals something interesting. Turns out the golden weapons aren't actually powerless. There's still power within them. And that is kind of interesting for how it sort of connects to Lloyd during seasons 8 and 9, and how towards the end of season 8, Lloyd lost his powers, but then during season 9, he was able to get his powers back. So, I have a feeling this is kind of like a similar situation. We then get just a really, really terrible scene, honestly. Lloyd brings up the fact that when it came to Harumi a while back, she said and that there was never anything between the two of them. And Lloyd asked Harumi, was this a lie? And, considering the fact that when it comes to Harumi, again, she said that in the first place, treated Lloyd terribly, manipulated him, tried to do whatever she could to turn his whole world into a living nightmare, attempted to kill him on multiple occasions, and wanted to be adopted by Garmadon, and that straight up didn't happen, and making her and Lloyd siblings. Yeah, I'm gonna go out on a limb and say that when it comes to Harumi, she was being completely honest. She never liked Lloyd. And Lloyd admits that when it came to Harumi, his feelings for her were genuine. And so, we kind of already knew that. But something that I think is interesting is that Lloyd said his feelings for Harumi were genuine, as in he had them, but not anymore. And I do think that this is pretty interesting because it shows that Lloyd's basically moved on a bit from Harumi. And, he's sort of over her now at this point. Like, he still has maybe a little bit more to go, but again, he's mostly there when it comes to him getting over Harumi. We then get just, again, a really infuriating scene with Harumi saying that when it came to Lloyd, he was never there and how he never saved her. But then Lloyd reveals that he was there, and as it turns out, when it came to Lloyd a little bit after he got his powers back during Season 9, he actually went right into the remains of the building that Harumi was on top of, that came crashing down, and Lloyd was actually trying to find Harumi. And just, my question I have when it comes to this scene is why? Why would Lloyd do that sort of thing? Towards the end of Season 8 and all throughout Season 9, Lloyd was in the situation where, from the way things were looking, he basically wasn't being manipulated or influenced by Harumi at all, and he was basically just doing things more for himself, really. Now, again, he was just trying to do what he could in order to just get over Harumi, or again, just basically kind of, again, not be influenced by her as much. And considering that when it comes to Harumi's death scene, again, just Lloyd was looking away from Harumi when the building came crashing down. And again, just to see Lloyd doing this right here with him trying to find Harumi, just, what the heck is this moment? It doesn't make any sense at all, and just, this doesn't really fit with Lloyd, honestly, considering where he was during Seasons 8 and 9, I feel. Just, when it comes to this moment, just like Harumi's death, it's being played off as like this really big and emotional moment, but honestly, I just end up getting really angry by this moment, and I legitimately don't like it at all. The episode then wraps up with Lloyd revealing that he was able to get out of the event-shown cuffs that he was in, and Harumi then reveals the ace up her sleeve, which is actually Mr. F, who then shows up. He defeats Lloyd, the crystal that contains the Crystal King starts glowing, and then that's where the episode comes to an end. So now time for my overall thoughts when it came to this episode. This episode sucked. This episode was terrible, honestly. It was just so bad. Now, I legitimately think that compared to all the other episodes we've gotten so far when it comes to Crystalized, this is by far the worst out of all of them. The stuff related to Harumi, which was a majority of the episode, I just really didn't like it, honestly. Them referencing Harumi's destiny again, which is a moment that I feel made legitimately no sense when it came to Harumi's character at all. Harumi being revived, I feel, just takes away from what death means when it comes to Ninjago, and is just another example of the bad resurrection zone when it comes to the show. And with this whole thing going on when it came to Lloyd revealing he did try to go back in order to try and save Harumi, again, that moment I feel makes legitimately no sense. And again, like I said, they try to pass it off as this being this like really emotional moment, but I just legitimately don't like this moment at all. It was so bad, and again, this episode, I feel, only reinforces my thought is that Harumi's death scene was absolutely terrible. Just, this episode was so bad with only a few positives, mainly being the Overlord making his return and the connections to the previous seasons, and that's basically it, honestly. Again, I don't like this episode, and I honestly feel that this is one of the worst Wild Brain episodes we have gotten so far. Just, it's so bad. And so that's pretty much all I got for you guys. So tell me down below, what do you guys think? What were your guys' overall thoughts on this episode? Again, tell me down below, and I hope you guys enjoy. Later, guys, this is Dimension Master Studios, signing off.